NPR edition of Talking with Tom and Jim. I'm your host, Jeff Greenwald. To my side is Daniel Dye. I can't keep that going. Up in the corners, Tom and Jim Goldrup.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Welcome, guys. It's always a blast to talk to you guys. And thank you, Dan, for being here to fill in again for Matthew Rose, who might be missing and unheard of. We don't know what's happened to him. So no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, my refrigerator has no idea.
We think it's nice to be here, depending if we know the answers to your questions.
So for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, Tom and Jim Goldrup, they're film historians. They had a brief stint in Hollywood themselves. They've traveled the world. They've written 4 books about the golden age of Hollywood and have all kinds of stories about that time. And it's just a pleasure always to talk to you guys. And unfortunately, I promised Dan that he can start tonight. So Dan's going to ask a question.
Okay.
Which he's promised will have nothing to do with the Gnome Mobile.
Well,
I make no promises.
I was hoping you'd be asking us what we thought of the Gnome-mobile, but
oh, it's coming. Don't you worry. We'll have an episode about the Gnome-mobile yet.
I'll have to watch it.
No, so before we started talking about some stuff, and we've done several shows together, and this story kept on popping into my head, but I want to ask you, what are some of your weirdest or strangest or scariest moments on stage when you've been acting?
Well, one moment for me, which is the kind of moment actors don't like.
Okay.
I was in the play. I was out there with another actor. We were in the living room, carrying on a conversation. He makes his exit. The actors playing my daughter and her boyfriend are supposed to come in. So I'm standing there, no daughter, no boyfriend. So I walk over to the mantel, pour myself a drink, start taking a drink, and I'm thinking about, what do I do if she don't come? Do I just come exit and walk off?
Mm-hmm.
I take a drink, and I finally said, oh, I wonder where my daughter is. She better not be with that hippie boyfriend of hers. And then they heard and they came on in. So there you are. Were you enjoying yourself? And she came up with the line.
My scariest moment, Jeff was in the audience, and so was Becky.
Oh.
I was doing Mr. Potter, and It's a Wonderful Life. I did Uncle Billy when I did it with you, Dan,
mm-hmm.
and then I got to play Mr. Potter later, and everything was going great. Opening night was great. Saturday, I was backstage, and all of a sudden, I don't know anything. I'm sitting in the wheelchair to get pushed out by the guy that pushed me out, and I looked up at him. This is in the final. By the time I got to the final scene, it was getting real bad, and I looked up at him and said, I don't know anything. He said, oh, it'll all come to you. I said, I don't even know the name of the play I'm in. I know it's not A Christmas Carol. I know it's not A Miracle on 34th Street. I don't even know that actor out there, and I'm working with him every night. He said, it'll come to you, and he pushes me out. And I felt real sorry for Nat Robinson, the actor, because he didn't know what was coming. And he pushes me out. He says his line of dialogue. I kind of look at him, mumble a few words. So he ended up having to ad-lib to get the whole final scene between Potter and that was what happened was, after the play was over, they called Jim up on the phone. The director called Jim up and said, hey, your brother's having a problem. Get down here. And Jim came down, and after the play, they insisted I go to emergency. And I said, no, I would just drive home. And they said, no, you're going to emergency. So Jim drove in his car, and one of the other actors and I went in my car down to ER, and they decided I had a minor stroke. And luckily, sitting there in the ER, the other actor, Scott Kravitz, he said, here's the script, here's your lines. And I said, they must have cut those lines out because you're saying those every night.
No, and we run them every night.
Yeah. And anyway, next day was a matinee, and it wasn't a matinee. The only Sunday that didn't have a matinee, so that was good. And by the time next Friday came, it all came back, and I relearned, and it all came back, and I didn't have a problem the rest of the run of the show. But because of that, I decided this is my last show, and
yeah.
I'm not going to do any more. That's an actor's nightmare come true.
Yeah.
Except I came to all the rehearsals and I learned my lines. But next MCT meeting, the director for the next play was sitting there, and he said he got all the cast together but a couple. And he said, "There's a character I'd like to have someone like Tom play." And no, he said that 3 times. So after the meeting was over, I went up to him and I said, "Okay, what's the part like?" And he said, "You're playing he'd like me to play a chaplain, a highwayman who what's the word? Not imposes, who pretends like he's a chaplain, and it's 1700s and all that, and it sounded like a real good part." So I said, "Okay, I'll do it," and everything went fine, and so no more problems. But that was the scariest moment of my life. Maybe one of the most scariest moments of my life, period.
I was thinking of like silly, funny moments, but that is truly.
Hold on, I was in the audience, and let me add more to. I was thinking because I was there, and the one scene you had no problem with at all, and you remembered, was the one between Potter and Uncle Billy. And when you talked to me about that, you'd worked in It's a Wonderful Life as Uncle Billy with us, and the brain is such a weird thing that I think that you remembered the lines from our show. You're laughing. I'm not kidding. Like,
no, it was scary. There's funny things that happened. See, what's something funny that happened? Okay. Well, this was kind of funny, I guess. Jim and I we produced our own show, and it was a 3-character comedy called Murder to Howard Johnson's. And first act, Jim and my wife are plotting my murder. Second act, my wife and I are plotting Jim's murder, my wife's lover. And the third act, Jim and I are plotting her murder, and we're going to hang her. And we have the gallows and everything there, and we're fixing up the rope. We get the rope, and the rope's supposed to be under the bed. And I told, I don't remember, one of us supposed to go over to under the bed and get the rope. It wasn't there. The stage manager or whatever forgot to put the prop there, and we were stupid. We didn't double check. And so Jim said, I'll go downstairs and get it, and he goes out.
I must have left it downstairs.
Yeah, I must have left it downstairs. So he goes out and gets it, and he brings it back. So little funny things like that can happen.
Yeah.
I love the character in Rat Race where the old was he blind? What was he? Goes out and he falls blind. Over and he has to crawl out or whatever.
But the guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
I just visualized that.
I'm trying to think of some other funny things.
Well,
when you did the Rubik's Cube, Dan and I have talked about this a lot. So you guys talk about that because Dan had to work with you on that, and Dan's sort of a Rubik's Cube aficionado. And so
I'll be right back. We talked to Jim for a minute.
No, I can kind of.
Well, a funny thing happened, not on stage, but in the film. That was some real low budget Western down in Hollywood. And the director, told, okay, the outlaws are behind the log, and we're shooting, and someone throws a dynamite, and dynamite explodes. Then the outlaws stand up and they start firing, and the director's saying, "Oh, damn it, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead." It was in the same movie, there's one Mexican bandit, a big, colorful sombrero, and he gets knocked off by a limb of a tree riding along. And next scene, they're filming like riding another way, and the director says, "Oh, get yourself a hat, put it back on." And the guy said, "No, the limb knocked it off." And the director said, "Oh, nobody will notice."
What I went out to get was that.
There it is.
That was a funny thing because I had to be really careful to make sure it went exact. I was a blind guy playing with the Rubicord, and I had to make sure that I knew the exact ways to turn it. And if I made a mistake, I had to give it to Dan afterwards, and it took him sometime all night practically to get it back into its right place. So
Oh man.
that's the old.
I was so scared because Dan would set it up pre-show exactly
Yeah,
how it would
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
You have to turn it 3 times. Three
Yeah.
times
Right.
to get it perfect.
I remember that. I remember we had a lot of fun coming up with what the bets were, because we're like, we couldn't use most of the bets that were in the show. And so we were trying to come up with what bets were, and I happened to be working on Rubik's Cubes at the time. And so I'm like, oh, that would be pretty funny to have a blind person figuring out a Rubik's Cube. So I had to figure out what was 3 moves that from the audience perspective when it started looked like it was completely messed up, but would be solvable in 3. But it was it was freaky to me every night too, because I'm like, one move and it's wrong and it's off. The whole joke's gone.
I was in the audience every night with both joy and terror because I was so scared it was going to go wrong. But also to hear the audience, I don't know, from the stage, if you could hear such the response. So you'd have the Rubik's Cube and you'd turn it once and you'd say, is this it? And the guy next to you would go, no. And no one would laugh. They were still trying to figure out what was happening. And then you turned it again. Is this it? No. And that got a huge reaction. The second one, everyone was laughing. And then when you turned it the third time and said, is this it? And he looks and goes, okay, yeah, that's it. And he calls saying it took him 4,000. Like, the audience was just in shock. Everyone was like gasping, like, oh my gosh, he got it right. And I had a couple people.
The few times it got messed up was at home practicing it, and have to come to, hey Dan, look at this.
Yeah, a few people, that came and saw the show, obviously they're not there every night, and so they thought that making it work was a mistake. So like they were like, a couple people came to me and said, he wasn't supposed to get it right, huh? They had to ad-lib that. I'm all, no, he gets it right on the 3rd try every night. Like,
3rd time's the charm.
imagine the chances. Is this it? Oh my gosh, it's it. What do we do?
That's so funny. Well, I've got your next one.